Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sharin Stories. I'm your host, Peaks, with my two beautiful co-hosts, Sarah States and Paul Santos. This is not a therapy session. You will not find mental health professionals here, nor are we a substitute for said people. We are just people sharing our stories with mental health. This week, we get the opportunity to talk to Nick Paggs, the creator of Project Limitless, a fellow podcaster, ambassador, and so much more. Nick is an adventurous, genuine, and motivational guy who always gives it 110% from what I've heard. On top of that, his content on Instagram at I am Nick Paggs will be sure to have you coming back as well with laughs, awe, and inspiration. I cannot wait to hear the journey and some of the struggles that have gotten to this point and what he is currently doing now. So please, everybody, welcome Nick Paggs.
What's up, everybody? Woo!
Let's go, Nick.
Dude, I haven't been on a podcast in a long time with multiple people, and I love it. So fun.
Yeah. It's good. It's a lot of back and forth. It's really nice. I cannot do you justice, though, when it comes to introducing yourself. Just give us 2 minutes of you, who you are, Nick, real quick.
Yeah, man, I'll keep it super simple. My name is Nick Paggs. My full last name is Paganelli. Very few people know that. It's not because I'm hiding it. It's just because I feel like I just took on Paggs. It's like my nickname, and it just stuck, and that was it. And I'm a mindset coach. My whole life has become being a speaker, mindset coach. I work with private one-on-one clients. I work with groups. And right now I just moved to Brazil, Sao Paulo, Brazil from New York in January, and it's April. So I'm in this new journey of learning to speak a new language, living in a new place. COVID is worse here than anywhere else on the planet. So it's an interesting journey. But I'm making a life that I really love and enjoying it. And my background really comes from the fitness industry. I was in the fitness industry for 11 years in New York City, owned a gym, and stepped away from that to really focus on the mindset behind living the best life you want to live, shifting away from just the physical experience. And that's why I'm here today. So that's it. And I'm sure we'll get into more as we go.
Yes, we definitely will. To make you feel a little better, it's snowing in Buffalo, New York right now, so it's probably about 35 in New York City. So, like, you're still at least living somewhat larger than what's going on here. I hope everything's good and safe down there. But it is an awesome place, I'm sure, to be and check out. Is that your first time down there?
I'd been here for the World Cup in 2014, I think is the year that it was here.
Yeah, something around there.
Yeah, 2014. And then I came back a couple times. I'm here because my girlfriend lives here. So her visa was up. She was living with me in the US, and she came here, and I was like, screw it. Limitless, baby. Let's go for it.
Let's go.
we got a place.
I'm excited to hear how Nick Paganelli, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Got to the point he's at right now. So I'm going to let you just take it away for a little bit. Give us a background on your story and kind of where you got to and what you're doing now. So I'm going to shut up.
Okay, cool. Let's rock. So yeah, I was born on June 7th. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'll give you the important stuff. My whole life growing up was surrounded around sport. I was a soccer guy. I shouldn't say my whole life. My whole life was surrounded around sport, theater, school, and service is what I'll say. I did musical theater growing up. I came from a theater family. My dad's a actor, director, not by trade, but for fun. And he went to school for it. My mom's a choreographer, not by trade, but has been doing it her whole life. My grandmother owns a community theater company and is a trailblazer in that space in New York. And my whole family kind of digs the thing. So I'm one of four, and we all, well, my little brother, not so much, but the other three love it. And I grew up with this weird combination of being the athlete, being the theater kid, and also being like the guy who was really about like service and community service and connecting with people. And it really was kind of the pillars of my life growing up that eventually kind of turned into the work that I do today. But I started in the fitness industry, as I said, when I was 17. I got an opportunity as a high school senior to do my internship. Like, we didn't even go to school my senior year, second half of the senior year of high school. It's the craziest thing. You could just go work somewhere, and that was like considered school. It was awesome. So I went to the gym, the local gym down the street, and I wanted to do physical therapy. That was the track that I was going to college for. And I was able to spend half the day with a physical therapist, half the day with a personal trainer. And that was my 6-hour school day. And then I went home. It was awesome. And I learned a lot about physical therapy in that time. I learned a lot about training in that time. I learned a lot about the body, about how the mind works with the body. And then I got my personal training cert when I was 19, and I was going back and forth, on breaks from school. I went to the University of Scranton in Pennsylvania. And I was coming home and training people, and I would do the dirty work of training people's clients for $10 an hour while they were off on vacation, getting paid 30 or 50 or 70 from that client and not doing anything. But I didn't care. I just wanted reps. I wanted to do it. And I loved working with people. And it was crazy. I finished school, and I had and I'll talk a little bit about the experience I had with mental health during that time. But when I finished school, I came out looking to just like make some money before I went to grad school. I ended up doing counseling and human services. So I was looking to be a counselor or something like that. And as I was looking at master's programs, I just went back to the gym and I was training people, and my business went from, I was struggling to get one person to work with me. And it was probably 2 months or 3 months. By that point, I had 50 clients a week. It was out of control. And I couldn't figure out why, because I was the dumbest one there, truthfully, in terms of like understanding the body. I had the least amount of experience. And I was like, is this really because I'm like a good looking guy and moms want to work out with me and look at me? Is that like, that's what my boy told me about that. I was like, is it not for who I am? And I quickly learned that it was very much for who I am. And that the piece that people were coming back for was the fact that I catered to creating a mental health experience for them just as much as a physical health experience for them. Maybe because of my background in counseling, maybe because I grew up with phenomenal parents who just were really attentive to that stuff. I don't know, but it was my first experience of understanding how important mental health is for everybody all the time. Like, we just think of it as like for people who are struggling with mental health, and it's such a weird stigma. And I learned through being in a big box gym with 5,000 members that everybody has mental health challenges, everybody. And we're always dealing with it. And it's always an experience that we have to work on. And it's something that doesn't just fix itself or work on itself. It takes attention and focus, and sometimes investment in time, money, and energy to do so. And I think because I came from having a pretty tough experience in school, I hated school, and I don't use the word hate lightly. I hated school since probably first grade. After I got Mrs. Bushel her signed Derek Jeter baseball, that was the coolest moment in school, I remember. And then after that, like, I just didn't like it. I was like, all right, I'm done here. After first grade, it was just a struggle to get through it. Part of my struggle was that I couldn't focus. And if you have ADHD, you understand what I'm talking about, or ADD. Or if you just struggle to focus sometimes, you understand what I'm talking about. And when you're in that space, you feel small. In a system where those who are celebrated are the ones who can sit for 8 hours straight, you feel small when you have ADHD because you look foolish and you're doing it wrong. And I never was tested for ADHD until sophomore year of college. I always said to my mom, I can't focus. And she'd say, it's because you're not trying. And my mom's a very sensitive person and ridiculously thoughtful. It was way deeper than that. But she knew, and I'm so grateful for her for this. She knew that once you start playing with medication, it's a different game. And that's not necessarily the play for everybody. And she said, there's nothing wrong with you. You just have a lot of energy, and that's okay. So she had to use a lot of her energy to go back and forth to the principal's office for many years, but she did not want me on medication, and never really gave me much of an option to go to a doctor to figure that out. So I kind of neglected to take care of that situation, and it created a lot of challenge in school, which I was cool with, and figured it out and was a solid C+ student and just dealt with it. But as I got to the more aggressive stages of school in my life, like junior year of high school, where things get real serious, and sophomore year of high school, and going to an all-boys Catholic school or Jesuit school where we were super focused on academics, and all I cared about was soccer, but my dad cared about academics, so I was focused on it. And I wanted to go to a good college. So I experienced a ton of pressure during those 4 years. The best 4 years of my life were my high school years. I had a great time, but a ton of pressure. And eventually ended up going to the University of Scranton. And after year one of trying to be a physical therapist and going through biology and chemistry courses, real quick, I learned that if I don't do something about this attention deficit disorder, that I'm going to really struggle. So I went and got tested finally after talking to my parents at the age of 18 and was put on Adderall. I actually, the first thing I was put on was Focaline was the name of it, which is death in a pill, if you ask me.
It sounds literally like a made up pill.
It sounds like a made up pill.
ADD. It's like focus. We're gonna go with Focaline.
Yeah, let's go with Focaline. Let's try that, folks. It's kind of like, let's just throw whatever the hell we want in this pill and see what happens. So I didn't know much about it or about any medication for ADHD for that matter. I had tried it to go out to party. I had tried it to study for a test. My friends had given it to me, and I felt like Superman, because when you actually struggle to read or study, if you really have ADHD in a way where it affects you with work, when you take it, the way my doctor explained it to me, it's like everybody's kind of at level 10 in life with focusing and you're at level 2. And when you take it, it brings you to level 10. So it just evens the playing field. And when I took this thing, I was like, yo, there's no way this is how the world usually works. There's no way that people's brains work like this, where I wanted to sit down and read a book. I wanted to sit down and study things. I was excited about learning about the body. It was crazy. Where normally I would spend 2.5 hours getting my desk set up, going and getting the right snacks. I would have to call my parents and be like, I need more money. Why? I need you to send me money because I spent $60 on chips and drinks and sodas and whatever to prep me for studying. And I never even studied. It was ridiculous. I needed space. I needed the headphones. And all of it was avoiding the fact that I couldn't sit down and focus. So when I took this thing, it was crazy. And dangerously, quickly, I became very addicted to it. And the scary part was I didn't know I was becoming addicted to it. There was a voice in my head that said, be careful. But it wasn't loud enough. What was loud was the success I was getting. What was loud was the clarity of mind, was the being able to wake up whenever I wanted, the able to stay up as long as I wanted. It was crazy to me that this is what normal people felt like, was what my doctor said. At the same time, I was having ridiculous emotional ups and downs. I mean, crazy. Like, it was scary. And ironically, at the same time, one of my best friends since kindergarten was my roommate, and he went to college, high school with me, and then college. And he took the semester off at the same time that I started this process, which is cool because I got my own room, but also dangerous because I got my own room. And when you start to have mental health issues that you don't know what's going on, and you've always been the happy-go-lucky, great life, never had an issue with your mental health kind of guy, it's a really scary thing when you got your own room. And I was by myself. And I remember having really, and this is interesting, I've never really talked about this on a podcast before. This is not something I tend to tap into, so I'm excited to talk about it today. I experienced for the first time in my life what depression felt like, for the first time in my life what anxiety felt like, losing control, like truly losing control of your thoughts. And it all happened at the same time in the craziness of being a sophomore in college, trying to just live life. And there were some dark, dark, dark nights in that room where, like, I mean, even to say it, like, I've never really said it out loud, but I had thoughts of like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Like, this is just painful. Let's get the hell out of here. Like, just be done with this. And I never got to a point of like looking at, like, thinking of ways to commit suicide. I never got to the point of really having that discussion, but thank God somehow I had the wherewithal to tell my doctor that, like, I don't think this is working. But what's crazy about this, and I need, like, God, I hope a parent is listening to this right now. What's crazy about this medication is what it does is it actually adjusts the chemistry of your brain. So as much as I'd like to say as an 18-year-old adult that I had control and could say, stop, this isn't good for me, you also are taking a drug that chemically changes the way your brain works. So it's saying to you, no, you're fine. This is great for you. So I'm having a conversation deeply within myself saying, this doesn't feel good, Nick, you know better. And then convincing myself otherwise because that's what the drug is doing. And then in order to get out of it, I would pop the drug to get to a heightened state. And then that heightened state would turn into a very low state, which already, if you're like me, a 3 on the, and a 2 on the Enneagram, I think it's what you call it. Like when you're the overachiever, the high energy, outgoing person, when you're that person, you already live in highs and lows. When you have ADHD, you're hyperactive. You already live your life in highs and lows. Add some drugs to make your highs higher and your lows lower. You got yourself a recipe for absolute disaster. None of this I knew while it was happening. This is all in hindsight. So I was in these dark spaces, really scary spaces. I did not ever tell my family about it. Still to this day, they don't know it in the depth that I'm talking to you about it right now because it doesn't actually matter. Like you guys will learn, I've come a long way and I don't take ADHD meds, haven't for years. But in that time, it was embarrassment. I was ashamed of myself. I'm the happy guy. I'm the energy guy. Everybody knows me as that. This is like, there are people dealing with real issues. Why am I worried about this? Stop it. So it was hidden. And honestly, one of the best things the Lord works in mysterious ways. And I'm just realizing this as we're talking about it. Guys, this is therapy. I don't know what you're talking about. I have not spoken about this in years. Maybe ever to this day.
Bringing some thoughts back, bringing some memories back right now.
Damn. So one of the crazy parts was one of my best friends at the time in school, a year or two older than me. I think a year older than me. He was having suicidal thoughts and going through deep depression, scary depression. So those nights, it was crazy. I actually found myself sitting in the room with him to protect him from hurting himself. So there were nights I would have to sit in his room and he wouldn't let me call anybody. Eventually I ended up calling his family, but we would sit in the room and I would just have to stay awake, slap myself awake. And I was going through the same things and I wouldn't tell him because I wanted to protect him. And honestly, now that I look back, I probably should have told him. It would have made it a lot would have felt better for him. Probably felt like he was connected, but I just sat in the dark with him. No words from like 2 a.m. till 6 a.m. wide awake. No words. Just, he didn't want to be alone. So I think like in those moments, you're thinking to yourself, this is horrible. This is terrible. What a nightmare. Why me? But now I look back, thank God, because I would have been alone in the room on those nights had he not called me. So interesting now that I look at it from that way. But it was a very dark space. And eventually, I was getting really scared of this. So I went to my doctor and she said, great, no problem. This happens all the time. Which what? Suicidal thoughts happen all the time? Okay, cool. Thanks. So then she gave me Adderall. Vyvanse was the next one. And Vyvanse is a different beast. They're all the same shit, just different ways of doing it. And literally what she told me, and I believe this is how they do it, is it's hit or miss. Try this one, try that one. That's what ADD drugs are. There's no way to tell what's going to work for somebody and what's going to not work for somebody. You just need to try them. They'll give their best guess, but essentially the doctors are just trying it. So they're just trialing if I'm going to have suicidal thoughts or not. And then when I'm in that state, I don't have the capacity to ask for support, which I didn't know because I wasn't clearly explained that. And because I'm sure it wouldn't have helped. So I'm thinking about a parent right now who's listening, who has a kid in kindergarten, first, second grade, who, because they're rambunctious, loud, and like jumping around, a teacher is telling them they have an issue and calling the parents and saying, we need to settle this kid down. They need to take medication. And the parents who don't know any of this from Adam and are just going for it are like, listen, the education system says it's the right thing to do. I trust in the education system. I trust in a doctor who spent years studying this. Like, if you think it's the best for my kid, I trust you. And now they're drugging this kid who can never tell you that they're going through mental health issues on their own because they don't even understand or have the capacity to realize that. I was doing this at 18. What terrifies me is that kids are doing this at 7. And we're just, if you look at the numbers, there's a Netflix thing called Take Your Pills. Go watch that. Netflix. If you're a parent, go watch it. It's terrifying, the numbers that exist. It is literally giving your kids speed. That's what it is. It's not like kind of, it is. The difference is one tiny element in what you're giving the kid. It is like actual meth It's wild. So that was what I went through. And then I started the Vyvanse thing, and the same thing happened. I became addicted to the Vyvanse, and I said, I don't have enough, even though I had way too much. And I was actually buying some from my friends extra. And my dad owns a pharmacy, by the way. So he was super on top of my medication. And my dad is super, super uptight about it to make sure that it was not abused. So I had to take matters into my own hands when I ran out. And I found friends and would buy it from them for like $1 a pill. And I never sold it. Never, ever, ever got rid of it. Like I still, to this day, I threw them out actually recently when I moved here. I saw some left in my dresser, and I was like, I saved these things. Like I still have them. It's crazy. I never like gave them to anybody. And then I said I didn't have enough. So I got a second dose of Adderall. So I would have the Vyvanse from 6 a.m. till about 3 p.m., 4 p.m., and then hop up on Adderall. Mind you, I was a student athlete playing soccer. And what happens is your brain turns on at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So I would take it as a performance enhancer. And I didn't know that was happening because I was allowed to, because I was given a prescription for it. So I would take it, like perfectly time my whole days to take it before games. I don't care if I slept or not. If it was a night game, I didn't give a shit. I just needed to make sure that I had it right before game time. And here's the crazy part. It actually demolished my career because my dad I would come off the field, and I had a really kind of yucky soccer career. It didn't go so well. And I spent my whole life training to play in college. And my dad would say to me, why are you running like you got bricks on your feet? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was given everything I got. But what's crazy about the drug is it dehydrates your muscles. Didn't know that. What's crazy about the drug is it makes your brain think you're on hyperdrive. Your brain's moving faster than your body can keep up with. So like I was not performing at a high level physically, just mentally. So I was seeing things in the game that I had never seen before after playing for 18 years. I was seeing the field differently, which felt like a crazy boost, but my body was struggling. I couldn't make a full field run without dying. And I was training harder than anybody. So all these things, it was impacting all different areas, emotionally destroying me, physically destroying me, but I was being tricked to think it was otherwise. And eventually I finished school using it all the way through. Thank God for it, because I don't know if I would have made it through school without it. And then I got to a point where I think it was a year in, I was waking up for 3:45 in the morning to open the gym, kind of fast forward into what we were talking about before. And doing these early mornings, late nights with clients, working crazy schedule and using Adderall to do it. And I just felt my body literally deteriorating, and my emotions going up and down. And I was like, man, I'm just done. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm emotionally fried. My adrenals were fried. My spirit was fried. And I was like, and I was upset because I felt like I needed it now. The worst thing in the world when you're trying to create magic in the world is when you think you need something or somebody else to get you there and that you're not enough for it. And that's what the drug taught me. I'm not enough as I am. So I need to go get a drug for it. And it's crazy. It'll align with the story I've been told my whole life since kindergarten, which was you're wrong for who you are. No teacher ever said you wrong for who you are. But what they stated was, as you are right now, the guy who can't sit down, as you are right now, the guy who hugs too many people. My mom got called into kindergarten to sit with Miss Herbeck for a conference because I was hugging too many people. As you are right now is the guy who wants to always be at recess. As you are right now is the guy who's always talking, who has so much energy, who never wants to sit down, who always wants to have fun. That guy, that's not who you're supposed to be, is what the school system taught me. And I don't blame the teachers, because truthfully, the teachers are doing their job. They need to take care of 20 some odd kids, 30 some odd kids, put them in a seat and keep them there for a certain amount of time. That's what they're paid to do, and teach us something. So I'm not mad at them. They're following what they get paid to do. But I'm angry at the system, because what's crazy right now is I get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to do all the things that I got in trouble for from kindergarten to college. And I want to say that to somebody who's listening right now who thinks that the way they're doing it is wrong. My voice makes me hundreds of thousands of dollars and lets me travel around the world and have impact. My ability to have energy all day long, nonstop, without drugs, by the way, is literally the reason why I get paid lots and lots and lots and lots of money and have a lot of success and have a lot of contacts and have a great life that I love. My ability to constantly talk and connect with people is how I built my life. So my question is, right now, is our education system in a dangerous place where it only allows a certain type of person to succeed? Because it kind of sounds like to me that that's the case. I'll shut up.
No, don't shut up. I'm loving
Nick,
it.
I
I'm
feel
loving
like
this
you
thing.
can tell your theater background and like the way that you just speak is so compelling. Like it just like, it's like a
Thank you,
natural,
I
like,
think.
it's a compliment.
I mean, I currently, I guess, am working in education right now, and I can name 10 kids off the top of my head that I taught at some point in my life that I know have ADD or ADHD. It's recognizable at a young age. It's definitely something that pops out. And I also can recognize the kids who are on drugs for their ADD or just straight up don't know they have it. You like some of the kids will come in some days and be a completely different student, and if they miss it for 2 or 3 days, all of a sudden you have someone throwing chairs, you have someone doing whatever might be happening, might be going awry, but that's because the dependency has already been created a lot of times. I don't want to say that because I do in the end think that at times there are severe times where drugs are the only way to keep sanity. And like you said, there are the small benefits of it was the only way you made it through college, you pretty much stated. Like these things do exist and there are at times benefits, but giving these kids a dependency at that age is extremely risky.
Yep.
No matter what it is. And so I've seen that for sure. I do want to kind of dive back into you a little bit. And then I want to work more into your work and what you're doing now. But really quickly, I want to jump into that. Of course, you said you haven't brought it up in so long. I'm going right back into the darkest parts because that's the parts I need to get more info on. Keeping up appearances, I think, is the biggest thing with spiraling a depression. Like I have been there before too, where those dark thoughts, like I pretty much the exact same point you got to, where it's like I was never ever contemplating committing suicide, but I was like, but what would it matter either way? Like, oh, if I do something, if I do something dangerous, whatever it might be, in the end, if I die, I won't know. And also like, it might just be easy. Right. Yeah. But I want to know like why do we keep up appearances so much in terms of not letting anybody else know we're struggling? And what are some ways we can kind of just that friend who told you about everything, do you wish you did it more like them, or do you wish you kind of kept things in the way you do?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of that friend of mine, like I had to pry it out of him. So he's not a great example of sharing. It was like he was in a bad place and I had to force my way in to protect him is what it felt like. Go ahead.
Honestly, I don't know if there is people that are open about it, really.
Yeah. There's so much shame around it because what you're saying to yourself in those moments is, I am not who I'm supposed to be. There's something wrong with me. And when you come from that space, you're already coming from a downer, depressed space, saying things like, why would anybody, like you're already struggling with worthiness conversation. So then why would anybody want to take care of me or help me? Why would I don't want to bother anybody is the conversation that we have. And if I was worth bothering people, that'd be one thing, but I'm not even worth bothering people to work on this, which in that moment, like, truthfully, if my family heard me say that, they'd be like, you have to be making this up. This is the farthest thing from you. And it's true. It was the farthest thing from the person that I know myself to be, which is why it was so scary. And I know it was drug induced because I am always the positive outlook guy. I am always the dude that sees the best in everything. Like that literally made a life out of it. I'm great at it. And I think that in those moments, certainly in my state of it being a drug experience, you kind of lose control and you start to compound negative thoughts. So like it starts with a negative thought and you can push through the day. And then it starts with another negative thought or two, right? and then another one, and then another one. And now, a week in, you're at 5 negative thoughts that you're carrying around that are always like the same thing. Like I'm fat, or I suck at school, or my dad hates me, or whatever story you're telling yourself. You start to compound them, meaning you do one and then you find another one to make that one to validate the one that you already said. So if it's like, my dad hates me is the one, then you'll say, my dad hates me because I'm a piece of shit. Right? And I'm a piece of shit because I suck at school. And do you see how it starts to compound? Now your dad hates you, you suck at school, nobody likes you, you're ugly, whatever the hell, you start compounding on top of that. And then when you go talk to a person who's in depression, like all they see are the compounding effects of all these stories they've told themselves, and none of which are actually valid. They're only valid for that person. Our life is literally built on our perspective, right? Like literally my reality is a combination. It starts with my actions. My actions create my reality. It's very simple. The life that we have in front of us is created by our actions. Where do our actions come from? They're created by our thoughts. Where do our thoughts come from? Those come from our beliefs. We don't spend a lot of time looking at our belief systems, aka our conditioning patterns and how we've been raised and the things that we think on a regular basis. That deep belief system, if those are not worked on, then we will always have a reality that matches that belief system. So you could change the action you do, right? You could go read all the 100 billion million effective habits for the most successful people. Go read it. Have a blast. And guess what? You'll probably be disciplined because you got a spike of adrenaline when you read it. You'll get that little bit of dopamine because it feels good. And you'll go do that thing to change your habit. You'll feel great about it. You'll do it for like a day or a week or a month. And then guess what? You're right back to where you were. Why? Because your beliefs stayed the same. So let's go even deeper. Let's go to our thoughts. Time to meditate. So now we start to meditate and we're like, let's adjust our thoughts. Believe me, all about meditation. But if all you're doing is focusing on the thoughts, got to adjust my thoughts. Think the thing into existence, manifest, just think. Great, it worked. I adjusted my thoughts changed my actions created a new reality. My life is better. 2 weeks down the road, 2 months down the road, you're back to your old shit. Why? Because you still haven't gone to the foundation of the issue, which is what you believe about yourself and the world. And until you face those things, and until you work on those things, which is what my life has become, supporting people with understanding what they believe and how to adjust it to create the life that they actually want to live. Until you face those things, you'll keep going back into your old patterns. It's that simple, because we come from conditioning. And until you adjust the conditioning, until you change the stories and do the work necessary to look at the stories you currently have about yourself and the world, and then ask if they're aligned with the life you want to live. And then if they're not, do the work to adjust them. If you don't do that, you'll always go back to the same belief systems. So no matter how many times you change your habits, you'll go back to the same stuff. So I think when it comes to that state of depression, what's really scary is you're so deep. It actually, what depression is in my mind, is you become so deeply rooted in your beliefs. And those beliefs are just really scary ones, right? Like the same thing. Depression isn't so far from some of the most successful people in the world, the most like enlightened people in the world. What it is an extreme. The most enlightened and empowered people in the world, they're on an extreme of seeing and perceiving in a way that works for them. Literally, they could step in dog shit and go, woo, time for a new pair of shoes, baby, let's go, right? Those are the empowered, aligned, woke people. I hate that word, but like those are the people who use everything, their belief systems in their favor. They choose to see it in a way that works for them. And are they wrong? No, they can go get a new pair of shoes, right? I lost my job, or I've been released from my job to open up space for a new opportunity. Sounds crazy to a lot of people, most people, but if you're in the state where that's your mindset, then you start seeing opportunities falling in front of your face left and right. You're the guy whose life just, man, everything just comes easy to that guy. It's not fair. No, he makes everything come easy to him because he's open to it. You want to make your story true about how shitty your life is. So depression is the opposite end of the spectrum, where I'm so deeply rooted in my belief system. I commend people who are suffering from depression because they know how to latch on to a belief, man. They stick to their guns. Their life sucks and they know it, and they refuse to see it any other way. That's what happens when you're in depression. Not to your own fault. It's an experience sometimes that happens chemically, right? And I'm no doctor on depression, but I've been in it multiple times recently. I've experienced it. It's scary. You feel like you lost control. But what it takes is visiting the things you're telling yourself about you and about the world.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And it's just like for me, it's just like putting up that front is like, because I was always also like known as like the positive guy, the optimistic guy, and like people were always like, I wasn't allowed to have any other feeling other than that. Like I wasn't allowed to be sad. I wasn't allowed to be mad because even though I was I am struggling, super struggling to be in a leadership position because I'm not allowed to be that strict person. I have to be the positive like guy who always makes people better. And if you're a leader, like, you have to be strict sometimes. And I struggle to do that because if I'm strict, like I become the biggest asshole in the world. Like, but if it's another person, they're just like, oh, that's just the way he works. That's just the way he is. And and it's like I just don't I feel that's like my struggle in my life right now, where like I want people to take me seriously as a leader, but I also want to be that positive guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like I want to bring people to the light. Like I want people to be motivated, but then like how do I take that leadership position if I'm always gonna be like, hey, like Paul's the one that's gonna like make it feel better all the time? Like, you know what I mean?
Yep. Isn't it crazy that where all the problems come in our situation is when we involve other people? Like nothing about that was a problem except other people think I should be ... Other people say that I'm this ... That is the only time problem comes in. And the crazy part is what we're trying to do is constantly, and Paul, I think this is what you're talking about. Tell me if I'm off. Constantly what we're trying to do is align with everybody's desires for where we should be and how we should be acting as a leader and how we should be doing this, that, and the other thing. And when we're doing that, we're shit out of luck because we're never going to make everybody happy. It's simply not going to happen. The only chance you ever got at making everybody else happy is by making yourself happy, by you waking up and being proud of you. And you being the leader you want to be. And when you're being that, you're proud of yourself. And when you're proud of yourself, you don't suck. Like straight up, the last time you check with me, the last time you were really proud of yourself and you were so nasty to everybody. Like it just doesn't happen. When you're proud of yourself, you want to hug people. When you're proud of yourself, you're like, what's up, man? How are you? When you're proud of how you're showing up in the world, you then show up really powerfully and people vibe with it. The second we start putting our value or we identify ourselves from how other people see us, isn't that crazy that that's how our identity is built? My identity, a lot of our identities are built on how we think other people see us. It's not even how we see ourselves. We like to tell ourselves, my identity is how I see myself. No, it's not. How you've identified yourself, most of you, is by creating a story about who you are because of what you think Paul thinks of me. I am who I think Paul thinks I am. I think I heard that from, that was not me. I think it was Jay Shetty. I heard him say it in his book or something. I am who I think Paul thinks I am. And we do that to everybody. What a crazy identity crisis. Because if I'm saying the same thing to Sarah, I'm saying the same thing to Peaks, I'm saying the same thing to Paul, what if you all see me differently? I'm going to struggle to see who I am and who I want to be because I'm looking at everybody else's opinion of who I think that I am. Like the people I work with think I'm one way. My mom thinks I'm another way. My friends think I'm another way. They all want to see me in a certain way by the way that works for them. My friends want to see me as the drinking buddy. My mom wants to see me as the go-getter. My dad wants to see me as the focused student. And if I'm trying to be all those things, I'm going to be in a crazy identity crisis. And then when you're in an identity crisis, you don't know who you are. So how can you have confidence? If you don't have confidence, you feel like shit. So really, the empowerment happens when we stop putting so much attention on what Paul thinks about me. And I put attention on what I think about me. That's doing the work. What I believe about me and how I show up in the world. And then if you don't like it, you'll vibrate out. you'll just vibrate out of my life, dog. Like we won't talk. I won't see you at lunch. You won't text me. And that's okay because we probably don't align anyways and we won't have a good time. Sorry, I got charged up. Paul, that was a great statement, man.
I love all of your answers. I think what I really thought was interesting during what you were talking about was talking about doing the work and sort of getting to the foundation of like the root of everything. And we've had a couple conversations in the past few episodes about therapy and like its effectiveness for each person. And like I like to do self-care or like like meditation or like read books that are like, I don't know if you would call them self-help books, but more be like, I don't know, personal improvement or something like that. And like I like to do all these things, but yeah, it's oftentimes like you fall back into your same old routines. Like, yeah, you get hit by that adrenaline from like being bombarded with all this like great information. You try to implement these new routines, you try to like change your life for the better. But then like it's like a week or less or a month or a year that you're just back to your same old bullshit. And I think with therapy too, just to connect it with like what we've been talking about lately, it's just like that it might be the routine that you're in because you're not actually doing the work outside of the conversations you're having with the other person. And you could just keep on going and talking about what's going on right now without ever addressing like the actual root of the problem. And I think that's so interesting. Like just, you really have to get to the foundation, and that's questioning your beliefs from however long ago. And really like, I think that's fascinating.
Yeah. I would love, Peaks, I'm cutting you off, dog, but I want to talk about that. Is that okay real quick? Okay.
For sure.
So therapy to me is such an interesting thing in that I'm all about therapy, not hating on it at all. I'll preface with that. I think it's beautiful and profound for a lot of people, and it's super important for a lot of people. Truly, I really believe it's super important for people to understand where they came from, like where this human that is now created and the way that I think and the way that I show up in the world, where did that come from? That's what therapy does. It goes backwards. And you look, and I work with a lot of clients. So I'm a mindset coach. I'm not a therapist. I have a background in understanding counseling. So I know how to ask questions really well, but I'm not at all qualified. Like even anything I'm saying right now is my perspective. So like take it with a grain of salt. But what I've seen after a couple of years of doing this is I get a lot of people who are therapizers. So like I'll say when I get a client, I like right away I've tagged like they're therapizers. I just know they're therapizers. What does that mean? People get addicted to the knowledge. Like our human brain is built to understand. It's why we freak out about the future, because it's the only thing we don't know about. So we always want to know answers, right? We're dying to know things. Our brain is built. It's our autonomic nervous system, 36 million year head start on us, always trying fight or flight. I got to know this. Because if I don't know, I'm in danger. That's the foundation of it. So we're always trying to know something. Therapy works really well for that. Why? Because you spend 1, 2, 5, 7, 12 years trying to find out what's going on. Now I know why I'm an asshole to everybody. Now I know why I never take care of myself and I put everybody else first. Now I know why this, why that. So I get a lot of people who come to me and work with me for 1 hour. I'm not tooting my own horn, but hear this. They work with me for 1 hour. They've been going to therapy for 5, 7, 10 years. And they're like, bro, I just got more out of that hour than I have in the last 67 sessions at therapy. And I'm like, no. Be super clear. This is not a this versus that thing. Therapy is right now to day 0 of your life. Figuring out where you came from, what happened that created the ways that you show up. Coaching, in my belief, or the work that I do, is from this second to where you're going. And when you focus on that, it gives you the freedom of change. Often what happens in therapy is you get answers as to why you are the way you are, which is great, except it just often roots the belief system deeper, right? So if my dad did this thing this way that made me like this, and I get awareness of that, and I have that aha life-changing moment, and my brain gets exactly what it wants, which is to know, now what? And I think therapy doesn't often spend the time in the now what. So what, now what? Like you're that way. You are. Great. Now what? Do you want to be like that anymore? Are you ready to change? Who are you being to adjust that? Are you trying different things? Are you showing up differently? Are you adjusting the belief systems you have? I think a lot of people go to therapy just to get the info about what happened, not actually to change their lives. That's some people. Therapy for a lot of people goes deeper. It's about trauma. It's about so I'm not judging people's therapy experience by any means. Please don't get it mixed up. But I do know that a lot of people are trying to change their life and expand and go to the next level. And they lean on therapy to do it. But therapy only roots deeper the stories they have about themselves sometimes. And they lean on it as a crutch. My mom treated me like this, so that's why I'm like this. And it gives them an excuse to keep being like that. Stop it. Okay, your mom did that. Are you going to keep that trend going? Do you want your daughter to do that? Stop it. Stop it. So coaching, I think, confronts where you're at in this moment and gives you the space to make choice to go down a different path. Sounds super easy, but it's
I can see how the two go hand in hand. Like
exactly.
Therapy and mindset coaching could be the perfect equation.
Yep, absolutely, no question.
Nick, this pains me to do. It pains me to do, but we are at about that time. We are at about that time where we're gonna have to end it. I'm sitting here with another hour of questions. Like you said, that first 45 minutes has done more than two.
Can we do it again? Can we do it again?
I wouldn't
we should
mind
do it again. I knew when I asked my question that Peaks was gonna be like, damn it.
I definitely wanted. I knew if you had a question, you had to take it, but I wanted one, and I have some. And I just need to get deeper as we get. So either we're going to talk separately or we are going to do this again, Nick. But that being said, for the listeners at home, this is all they're getting for today. Other than that, I want you to plug anything that you are doing right now, where people can talk to you, if people need to reach out, have questions, anything that you just want people to know about right now, shoot it their way right now.
I want you to know, what I want people to know is that wherever you're at, you can go somewhere different from where you're at today. That's what I want people to know first and foremost. Wherever you're at right now, you have the capacity to change your state and to change your current situation. And sometimes it looks like getting support. I'm not saying you need to hire a coach, but sometimes it does look like that. And it doesn't make you weak. It makes you intuitive, understanding where you're at, and it makes you someone who's taking charge of their lives. So if any of this is vibing with you in a way where you're like, yeah, that sounds great for him, but I can never make that change in my life, or it sounds great for her, but I can never really do that. Stop it and just bet on yourself for once, just one time, and trust that you can get to a different space. So if I can help you with that, I'd love to. But if it's not me, cool. Let it be somebody. Get support, because human connection, there's nothing more powerful. So sometimes it looks like getting somebody in your corner. But if you do want to contact me, my info is very simple. I am Nick Pags. I actually am. And that's my Instagram handle, at I am Nick Pags, Pags. And you can find me there. Honestly, it's the easiest way to get with me. I'm all over the DMs, so you can find me there. You can email me at nickpagsllc@gmail.com. And if you want to apply to Project Limitless, I don't know when we're dropping this episode, but middle to end of June is going to be our next cohort of Project Limitless. It is an 8-week mindset coaching experience, a group experience. It's wild. It would be a whole nother podcast talking about the impact that it's had on people. So we'll do that on another day. It's crazy to see what happens when you actually pay attention to your belief systems for 8 weeks and allow yourself the space to adjust them. So we have some pretty ridiculous results there. I also do one-on-one coaching. I'm very, I don't think picky is the word, but one-on-one coaching for me is all about relationship, and it needs to be super symbiotic for me and the person that I work with. So the way that works is if you want to reach out to me about learning what that's like, just shoot me a DM and we get on a call, and I'll spend an hour just getting to know you, getting to know me, see if we vibe. And that's it, man. Follow me on Instagram, because I put a lot of the stuff that we're talking about right now. If it served you, just go there, because I pour stuff into that Instagram. So I hope that I can talk to somebody soon from this podcast. And I appreciate you guys and what you're doing and putting all this into the world. It's really important. So thank you.
Nick Pags, everyone, the person whose plugs are fucking enlightening. Just unbelievable.
They call me Plugging Pags, baby. Plugging Pags.
Seriously, man, it has been an absolute pleasure getting to know you. Thank you very much. Everybody listening at home, go check out I am Nick Pags, and continue to change that mental health into mental wealth. Everybody, thank you so much for listening.